special presentation from News Channel 9, WSYR Syracuse.
Welcome to a special edition of Hidden History. I'm Jennifer Sanders, and thank you so much for joining us as we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month. So right now, I'm standing in La Casita Cultural Center. It's on the near west side of Syracuse, and you can see the beautiful artwork and the colorful displays. It only begins to tell the story of a very diverse culture in central New York and around the world. If you take a moment and close your eyes, the beat of the drums will take you to a land far away.
Let's all try and do one together, okay? Follow me.
For these young girls, they enjoy that escape every week, twirling in their colorful skirts to Afro-Caribbean music, learning salsa, merengue, and bachata.
Oh, it makes her so happy. They express themselves.
That's why children are here every Friday at these classes at La Casita. But it's not just about dance. It's also about the Latino culture.
We're celebrating the culture, we're celebrating our rich history, we're educating our children. A big part of the programming at La Casita connects with the community in a very important way, which is through their children.
Tere Paniagua works as the executive director of La Casita, a cultural bridge to connect Syracuse University and the city of Syracuse. SU students dedicate time and resources to help the younger generation, showing just how much representation matters.
They see someone they can relate to. This is someone that comes from where I come from. This is someone whose family looks like my family.
They dance together and read together, learning about journalism, science, and technology. And everyone who comes here is exposed to world-renowned artists who live right here in Syracuse.
Every year we have a themed exhibition that opens in September as part of the commemoration of Hispanic Heritage Month. And this becomes a project that we examine through almost a whole year.
This year, it's Cuba. The walls lined with Cuban art, photography, and cultural relics, examining life on the island through personal narratives.
What they are trying to present here is more the reality of what the people who live there have to deal with, and the deterioration and the crumbling infrastructure.
The artwork is kept in place by duct tape, symbolic of the artist's message. And just a few steps away, photography, chronicling the journey of local families to Syracuse, stories of love, hard work, and life.
These are all 1930s photos. These are pre-revolution era photos. So that's a really interesting story. These are Cuban passports from before the revolution. That also came from one of our members of our community that had preserved these relics of her family.
But there was also a special focus this year on Puerto Rico. A year after Hurricane Maria, students and community joined together for Voices in Exile, a special tribute to people who lost nearly everything they owned.
People that have been affected by the Hurricane Maria and that came to Syracuse University especially, I feel that La Casita, more than anything, have supported these people because they know the struggles of what it is to leave home and come to a place that they don't really know about.
Which really sums up the mission of La Casita, a place preserving the past while inspiring the future.
Our aim is for visitors who come to see our space to learn something about our culture, about our history, to hear our stories, I think to find a common ground where we connect.
Coming up on this special edition of Hidden History, how a small Latino publication has defied the odds and become a leading voice across New York State. The first publication you see when you walk into La Casita is CNY Latino. It's one of a kind, covering cities and towns from across New York State. But it's not just a newspaper. I sat down with the founder who told me how they are using their voice to preserve Latino culture.
En la llamada telefónica tenemos a la señora María Ortiz. Hola María, ¿cómo estás?
It doesn't take long to hear
Y aquí tenemos también una información.
or see Hugo Acosta's passion for the Latino community.
En la página, si tú vas a la copia del periódico CNY Latino,
In a time where radio and newspaper are part of a dying industry, Hugo has found a way to use both to preserve his culture through media.
our culture has the bad image of a lot of negativity. So I'm trying with the paper not only to enhance and show the positivity, there is plenty in there, but also how to avoid that the negativity to keep growing.
What started as a mostly black and white 24-page paper in 2004 has grown into this. He now prints thousands of issues each month, covering everything from street art to immigration policies, all articles in both English and in Spanish.
A huge percent of the Latinos that migrate here are looking for what the famous American dream. But many of them either are doing it the wrong way or they don't know how to do it properly. So another mission that I would like to use with not only the newspaper, but the other media outlets, especially now that the digital world is coming into the new generation, is how to do that in this society, in this American culture, without losing our own culture. WVOA Radio.
A few years later, that same mission would lead him here to create Hablando con Central New York, the only Spanish commercial radio show in this area. It runs on 87.7 FM, but reaches across the world.
We're getting phone calls from Colombia, from Mexico, and also from different parts here in America, from Texas, from California.
The topics are many, from recipes to religion to sanctuary cities and sports.
We interview a popular Latino goalie in hockey. We Latinos stay away from winter, the cold weather. That's rare to see people of color in hockey. And that was very interesting.
But perhaps the biggest focus is on the future.
If the Latinos new generation coming in here, not only are going to lose the language, but then little by little through the years might also lose the culture. That's something it will be sad to see.
And that's why he will continue using his voice for his culture. Beans and rice, enchiladas, and flan. After the break, we'll show you some mouth-watering foods from across the world that people can enjoy right here in Syracuse.
Hidden History, celebrating Hispanic heritage, sponsored by East Syracuse Chevrolet.
Art and music are a huge part of the Latino culture, but so is food. You have tacos, barbacoa, empanadas, beans and rice. So many choices and so many flavors. Now, there are a lot of good restaurants around our area, but right now we're going to head to one that's satisfying taste buds on Syracuse's north side. Here on the corner of Lodi and East Division Street is Mi Casita. Quite unassuming from the outside. But once you go in, be prepared to take a journey to Mexico, Cuba, and Puerto Rico with tacos, empanadas, carne guisada, all authentic cuisine that will leave you wanting more.
You feel like you're home. It's like a piece of Cuba in here.
So let's head back to the kitchen where all the magic happens.
Yeah, I make tamales.
Okay.
That's Julia. She's one of the owners. She's from Mexico, and her partner is from Cuba.
These are chicken tamales.
Chicken? Okay.
Chicken. There's chicken.
So just a few easy steps of putting the chicken on top of the masa and husk, topped with some salsa and then steamed. And then you have a chicken tamale.
And there is a lady that I talked to the other day that I was here, and she was saying this place is on the top line of the tamales because she's been tasting tamales everywhere around the city. And she say, well, you guys are on the top of the tamales. You're like, oh, you guys are, look at that.
But that's not all they're known for.
Tacos, barbacoa tacos, carnita tacos, flautas, and tamales. Puerto Rican food, Mexican food, Cuban, and El Salvador. Pupusa is El Salvador.
They also serve kingfish, Cuban rice, pork chops, plantains with ground beef and cheese. They say it's all about el sabor, the flavor of the cuisine.
Puse mi casita en Northside.
Julia opened Mi Casita last year because she saw a need for it on the north side. And almost every customer we talk to says her restaurant is the real deal. Good food and a family atmosphere, almost like a slice of home.
It's ready.
And now from Syracuse, New York, all the way to Albuquerque, New Mexico, let's take a little journey and check in with my colleague Chad Brummett to taste authentic New Mexican cuisine.
Fewer topics are as contentious or full of pride. Who makes the best enchilada? Who has the hottest green chili? But what makes New Mexican cuisine New Mexican?
I don't know. It's probably more like a cross between Spanish, Mexican, and Native American foods. Spice, a lot of heat.
Once you taste it, it's unique to anything in the world.
Following the Spanish tradition of adapting key ingredients with regional flavors, the New Mexican cuisine was born in the fusion of Native American staples with Spanish ingredients brought over in the 16th century.
Before the Spanish, they didn't have like pork, they didn't have beef, they didn't have chicken, they didn't have milk, cream, eggs.
Those ingredients were mixed with the cornerstone of the Native American tradition.
The three sisters, the corned beans and squash, they each kind of help each other to grow and prosper. So you'll see things like calabacitas, you'll see like corn husks, for tamales.
There's so much passion for New Mexican cuisine, particularly with the natives that are from New Mexico.
Our passion for food goes beyond just picking your favorites. It's ingrained in the very fiber of our cultural identity.
Staying consistent with what we've been serving for years and years. The family values that we've put into this is a family-owned and operated business for 64 years.
New Mexicans often look at themselves as underdogs, especially in down economic times. But our cuisine, and specifically our chili, is a source of great pride.
You do the green and the red chili and the heat and the spice so well, and it's like the one thing besides Breaking Bad that you're kind of like you're known for it.
Coming up, how one Central New York Latina used a devastating experience in her life to save the lives of women, men, and children across the country. Latina women are blazing trails across the country. Elisa Morales is a proud Puerto Rican, and she spends countless hours advancing her community in Central New York through education, social justice, and awareness. In just a moment, we'll hear about her personal journey, how it's helping those who don't have a voice. But first, my colleague Denise Valdez from Las Vegas sits down with the country's first Latina senator. She's a political pioneer who's paving the way for the future.
Catherine, left hand in the Bible, raise your right.
Catherine Cortez Masto made headlines after winning her bid to replace Senator Harry Reid, making her the first Latina ever to serve in the U.S. Senate, a title she does not take lightly.
It is one thing to make history, but it's another for me to be have a seat at the table and be able to use my voice for others who are traditionally underrepresented.
That you take this oath and obligation freely.
When she arrived in Washington, she quickly realized there was work to do, broadening the ethnic base.
I sat down with my staff and I said, oh my God, we got to do something about it. We got to shake this place up.
So, as a junior senator, she set out to bring diversity to not only her office, but to others on Capitol Hill. They brought together minority government workers to discover what barriers were holding them back and urged them to support each other to build their careers. Plus, she'd like to see government interns get paid so those coveted jobs can be open to students of all backgrounds.
People think of diversity, think it's a checkbox, right? Oh, I hired that. I hired that Latino. I hired that African American, I'm done. That's not what this is about, right? This is about changing that culture. This is about every single day.
The granddaughter of a Mexican immigrant, Cortez Masto heavily identifies with many of her constituents. The struggles her family faced are the same ones they face.
Every day I walk through the halls of Congress, or even when I was Attorney General here, I think of the courage it took for my grandparents to come to this country, and the hard work that it took for my parents to make sure that their two daughters would be the first in our family to graduate from college.
A native Nevadan, Cortez Masto is the daughter of Joanna and Manny Cortez. Her father, the longtime head of the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, and he also served as a Clark County commissioner. Her dad, of Mexican descent, her mom, of Italian, which made for some large family gatherings.
So one Sunday, I'd be at my Mexican-American grandmother's house, having frijoles and tortillas that she made, and her tamales, and you name it. And then the next Sunday, I'd be at my Italian grandmother's, and she made a pot of sauce, right? And we'd have brujol and lasagna, and you name it, and meatballs, all the great food.
Those Sunday dinners and rich cultural background helped shape the woman she is today. But she also credits dedicated mentors for opening doors in her life. Now she hopes to kick those doors wide open for others to follow.
It is the opportunity to open that door even wider, to make sure that not only that I have gone through, but others are coming behind me, and I'm pulling them through and helping them through.
Elisa Morales, Executive Director of Spanish Action League, and that's where we're at right now. So you are a domestic violence survivor. Talk to me about that journey and how you were able to become a survivor.
At the time when I was dating, I dated one guy. It was the first guy who got me out of the house, so to speak. You know, he cut me off from my family right out of the gate on the wedding night. You know, he controlled everything that I did. We ended up having 2 girls, and they're the light of my life. But, you know, we went through a lot as a family just because their father was really abusive. My ex-husband, you know, at the time, it was verbal abuse, it was psychological abuse. But then eventually, when I decided that I didn't want to be with him anymore, that this wasn't okay, that I did love myself more, that I wanted better for my kids, and I wanted to give my girls an example, things really changed. And, you know, sometimes violence does escalate, and you're never really quite prepared for it when it happens. So, you know, I started sneaking out to go to VR House to take these classes, and it changed my life. So ever since then, I've just been very passionate about, you know, helping people. I feel like I was born to serve humanity.
And at one point you said the invisible are among us.
They are.
So what did you mean by that?
Domestic and sexual violence victims are trampled spirits, but a human trafficking victim is a broken spirit. You know, people think that slavery ended. It never did. You know, it just got more resourceful, and it's expanded because it doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care what color you are, what language you speak. I mean, anyone could be enslaved. Someone who's educated, someone who hasn't even gone to school. It doesn't matter. So, you know, for me, if I'm walking out on the street, there could be slaves walking amongst us, but because there aren't those physical chains, and maybe you don't see people distraught because they're trained really well. And sometimes even with our foreign national victims, if they're sold into slavery, and they're even by their own families, if a trafficker says, I will kill your family, they will protect their family, and they will behave, they will do what they need to do.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes people think, it's not happening where I live, not in my city, not in my town, not in my hamlet.
Exactly. You know, like I said, professionals have been trafficked, and people of all walks of life and all colors have been trafficked. And, you know, even here, putting foreign national trafficking and that victimization aside, some of our own American citizen parents are selling their kids, have sex with my toddler in exchange for rent or rims or iPods or laptops and things like that. That really does happen. Also the rehoming of children. So children that are in the foster care, you know, in foster care right now, some of them are being forced into sex slavery. So it's everywhere. It's right under our noses. It could be walking next to you at the mall and you just wouldn't know it.
You are a survivor, a thriver. There might be someone seeing you and they maybe were abused as a child, or maybe they are in an abusive relationship right now. What would you tell them? Obviously, you are the face of someone who has survived and who can make it and thrive in life.
I love to let people know that their existence matters, because really it reminds me that mine does too, because sometimes we lose that perspective or we don't see it at all. It takes a lot, or it takes something really tragic to happen for us to open our eyes.
I hope these stories of courage and resilience continue to enlighten and inspire you as we continue to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month and the influence Latinos have had not only here in Central New York, but around the world. I'm Jennifer Sanders. Thanks so much again for joining me for this special edition of Hidden History.